Under the arches behind Horse Guards Parade, this is the backstage area where final preparations are being made for Trooping the Colour. And this horse is going to play a key role because this is Jumping Jack. He'll be carrying the field officer and brigade waiting, so no jumping about today. All right, Jack? You behave. It's time for Trooping the Colour 2026. And you join us here in central London on the most glorious day already. You can see the mass bands and around 400 foot guards on parade here at Horse Guards, awaiting the arrival of His Majesty the King. And this is a great highlight of the royal and military calendar. It is Trooping the Colour. And 2026 is a notable year for the Grenadier Guards, who are taking centre stage today. The regiment is marking 370 years since it was formed by King Charles II to serve as his most trusted troops. At the heart of that centuries-old relationship is the King's Company, who will be today providing the escort. And the person who will be inspecting them is, of course, the King, whose royal standard is flying high above Buckingham Palace, and His Majesty will be accompanied by members of the royal family for his 4th birthday parade as monarch. And this is such a glorious sight. Everyone on parade today looking immaculate. Bearskins glossed up and shimmering, their boots are sparkling, medals glistening. And there is a strong Grenadier presence on parade. The regiment makes up 4 out of the 6 guards today. The King's Company, 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards, providing the escort, and they are led by Major Ben Tracy. Number 2 Guard is provided by Number 2 Company Grenadier Guards. And Nijmegen Company Grenadier Guards make up Number 3 Guard. Number 4, comprised of Inkerman Company 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards. And making up Number 5 Guard are Numbers 9 and 12 Company Irish Guards, easily spotted by their distinctive St Patrick's blue plumes. And finally, Number 6 Guard is provided by Number 7 Company Coldstream Guards. And I am delighted to say that I'm joined today by a very special guest, a proud Grenadier and the former Brigade Major, Lieutenant Colonel James Shaw. Welcome, James.
Good morning. This is my first time watching as a spectator, so it's slightly surreal, but what an amazing view from the commentary box.
Well, it's been a busy week for the Grenadiers, and specifically the King's Company, our escort, also known as the Sovereign's Own Company, and they play a special role at moments of great national significance. And James, yesterday afternoon, the Grenadier Guards received a very special visitor.
And this shows exactly how personal that relationship is between the King and his company. But there he is, a chance to chat to his troops, see how they are, make sure they're set for today. And I know he said, "Make me proud today."
And as part of that visit, 3 guardsmen in the escort were promoted by His Majesty.
What a moment. We all know how special it is to get promoted, but by His Majesty the King, in front of their friends and comrades, and Lance Corporals Benjamin Brown, Lewis Goodham and Miles Turley will proudly wear their Lance Corporal ranks today. A big first step, as it's the first rung on the promotion ladder.
And actually, that was the 2nd time this week that the Grenadiers spent time with His Majesty.
It's been an amazing week for the Grenadiers. The presentation of new colours on Tuesday, and the colours of the Sacred Heart of the regiment. But to receive those new colours in the garden of Buckingham Palace with all the Grenadier family and friends there was incredible. And there we see the King dressed as a Field Marshal and the Grenadier King's colour and regimental colour.
And every battle on the colour represents a chapter in the regiment's history. That shared history still sits at the heart of the Grenadier Guards today. And a few weeks ago, the Grenadiers held their annual Regimental Remembrance Day. A good opportunity to share their memories and reflections on what it means to be a Grenadier.
Regimental Remembrance Day is an annual event in the calendar where You get serving personnel, ex-serving personnel, families and children come together to remember those that have fallen.
It's a very, very personal occasion where it is only that regiment that is coming together rather than it being a larger celebration with the nation.
My brother is a Lance Sergeant and I'm a Lance Corporal. We're very much just brothers like ordinary brothers would be. We get on fine. We don't really squabble very often. I do think it does take a special sort of person to want to be a Grenadier Guard. It's a uniquely sort of disciplined role on parade and on operations.
The ability to do both at such a high level makes you a Grenadier.
Once a Grenadier, always a Grenadier. So there is the sort of concept of once you've served with the regiment, you're part of the regimental family, if you like, and you won't really be forgotten. Our cousin David was in the Grenadier Guards, so it is a family connection.
I remember him, it was like a real life action man for sort of thing. Yeah, it was like an inspiration to me.
Unfortunately, David died in 2010 on operations in Afghanistan.
Lance Sergeant Dave Greenhow was the driver, and unfortunately we stopped on top of an IED. It's killed Sergeant Greenhow and also seriously injured myself. He, was a great inspirational leader, very outspoken, big character, and yeah, it was very sad the day that we lost him.
It was looking after other people during the patrol, making sure that roads were safe, that David was killed, so it is part of his enduring legacy that it was protecting others, in which he died.
Those experiences that we gain on operational tours, the brotherhood, the camaraderie, the bonds that you form with your men are incredibly vital. For myself, in 2009, I was very seriously wounded in Afghanistan, and I found as I questioned myself whether it is time for me to step off or carry on, I looked around me and I saw all those people that I was serving with. They were the ones that gave me the resilience that actually I did want to carry on serving. I did still have something to give the country.
The realities of our job can be serious at times. The guy or girl to your left or right, you're relying on them to do the right thing so that you can do the right thing, and you're really reliant on every single individual to play their role.
It's nice for us to remember that hundreds and thousands of people that have done it before us for hundreds of years. It's good to remember and be part of that history.
So when we troop the colour, we'll carry the weight of the soldiers that have served under that colour, and I try and instill that on all the guardsmen coming through now. Once a Grenadier, always a Grenadier.
And what a sight this is, the Guards Memorial, and it is celebrating its centenary. It was originally put there to commemorate the death of 14,000 guardsmen in the First World War, but James, additional inscriptions added after the Second World War, and every guardsman who has lost their lives is commemorated by this statue.
Stood in front of the Guards Memorial, you are aware of those that have gone before you and how they're always looking down and keeping watch over you.
And just on the left of the picture, on jumping jack, that is the commanding officer of the Grenadier Guards, Lieutenant Colonel Tom Spencer Smith. You saw him in that film, and he is the field officer in brigade waiting. He is the man who commands today's parade. And we are awaiting the departure of the first carriages of the royal family. And formed up outside Buckingham Palace, the mounted soldiers of the Household Cavalry, who create what's known as the Sovereign's Escort. So they will literally escort the King to Horse Guards Parade for today's ceremony, and made up of the two Household Cavalry regiments, the Life Guards and the Blues and Royals. And in the first carriage, we see the Duchess of Edinburgh on the near side, who in 2022 became the new Colonel-in-Chief of the Corps of Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. She's also Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Irish Regiment and Royal Colonel of the Queen's Own Yeomanry. And alongside Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Edinburgh, we have Vice Admiral Sir Timothy Lawrence. In the second carriage, we see the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester. The Duke of Gloucester is Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Anglian Regiment and the Royal Army Medical Corps. And the Duke of Edinburgh will be riding as one of the Royal Colonels on parade, and the same is true of the Princess Royal, who's married to Tim Lawrence. The Windsor Greys carry His Majesty King Charles III as he departs Buckingham Palace for Trooping the Colour. His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen and the King wearing the uniform of the Grenadier Guards. And James, the first time actually since 1936 that a king is wearing that uniform on a birthday parade.
Indeed, the last was King Edward VIII for the brief period of his reign. It would have been King George VI in 1951, but he was ill, so the then Princess Elizabeth, as Colonel of the Grenadier Guards, stepped in.
And Her Majesty the Queen is the current Colonel of the Grenadier Guards. Oh, now we get a sight of the second carriage. Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales with Prince George, Prince Louis and Princess Charlotte. And they are such a popular part of any royal event. And His Majesty the King acknowledging the crowds, and we get a good sight there of the Queen's attire, and again a very much a nod to the Grenadiers.
The Queen has always talked about how proud she is to be a Grenadier, and we see that today with her dressed as a Grenadier. She's patron of our Colonel's Fund, supporting our wounded, and she's spoken about her deep affection for the armed forces through her father, who served in the Royal Lancers in World War II.
Meanwhile, up at Horse Guards, we have the first members of the Royal Party. And we have Lieutenant Colonel Charles Foynette, who is the Brigade Major, and he is flanked by the retinue, the four smartest turned-out troopers of the Life Guards and the Blues and Royals. And they are followed by the mounted band of the Household Cavalry and the 1st and 2nd Divisions of the Sovereign's Escort, which this year is formed by the Life Guards. And the mounted band are fabulous. 40 mounted musicians and horses on parade today under the direction of Major Paul Collis-Smith. And at the front, the 2 drum horses. Perseus ridden by Lance Corporal of Horse Chris Diggle and Apollo by Lance Corporal Dominic Buswell. And there we have Prince George facing us on the left, and Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis sitting next to his mother, the Princess of Wales. And Prince George now 12 years old. He's going to be a teenager. Next month he'll turn 13. And Princess Charlotte now 11 years old, and Prince Louis just 8. Now you see there the royal colonels who are riding behind the king. And on the right-hand side, Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal, who is Colonel of the Blues and Royals. And she's riding Noble, a very accomplished horsewoman in her own right. In the middle, we have His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, who is Colonel of the Scots Guards and the London Guards. And he's riding a horse called Sir John. And we have His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, who is Colonel of the Welsh Guards. And he's riding a Derby. So the lifeguards lead the way as they turn towards Horse Guards. And you'll start to see appearing on the left of the flags of the 56 member countries of the Commonwealth. And they are flown always along Horse Guards. And among those welcoming the King 2 Horse Guards parade, a contingent of Chelsea pensioners from the Royal Hospital, Chelsea. Now the senior coachman will shortly salute the colour with his whip as the carriage passes the colour party on the parade ground. The Royal Colonels also salute the colour, and the King's Birthday Parade of 2026 is about to begin. Chiming of the clock indicating that the timing has been spot on, and the King's first task is to inspect the line of 6 guards, and it is also an opportunity to hear the music of the fantastic massed bands. And James, how is the music chosen?
In February in the Guards Chapel, 2 tunes are played for each phase of the parade by one of the bands. One of these will be selected by the Major General and his team, although we sometimes think there is a fix every now and again when a musician has their own piece of music in there.
Well, the music for the slow inspection is the Guards Memorial, and it has been specially arranged this year to mark the centenary. For the quick inspection, the music changes to Wentworth, named after the Grenadiers' first colonel, Lord Thomas Wentworth. And James, you get a sense from it on the ground, don't you, of whether the King is impressed or not.
Indeed, as Brigade Major leading the inspection of the line, you see exactly what he sees, and you want to see everyone stood tall, sat tall if they're riding, looking smart, looking ahead, smartly at attention, and it really does show, and I'm sure that is what the King is seeing today.
And His Majesty is now passing the sovereign standard of the Life Guards, carried by Squadron Corporal Major Duncan Chalmers. Procession continues past the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery, commanded by Major Luke Wadman. The carriage driver will salute their lead gun, which is in effect their regimental colour. And that music that we have been enjoying was written by Grenadier Guards musician Jacob Little, who is 21 years old and is on parade today.
I think it's quite a special privilege to be the youngest person to write for this parade. In its hundreds of years of history, being the first person of my rank and my age, it's not quite hit me yet. I think when we get onto the Horse Guards parade, it'll probably sink in. It's a unique privilege.
And what a moment that will have been to have heard his music, his own composition played here, and to be on parade. And there is the man in charge, the Senior Director of Music, Stuart Halliday. It's his last year in the role, actually. He is about to retire after a very distinguished career.
I think the emotions that I will feel on this final parade, they'll come and go. I think to start, I probably will feel quite spellbound by recognising the characters that I know so well within the bands. But once you get on the parade, I'm laser focused on delivering the product, musical excellence, and every member of the Royal Corps of Army Music is delivering musical artistry. It is the attention to detail, the dynamics, the articulation, the phrasing. It is their heart and soul that is being projected musically on the parade.
Now let's take a look at the colour and those charged with guarding it in advance of the ceremony today. The two sentries of the colour party, Guardsman Hanley and Guardsman Gagan, flank the colour sergeant Michael Beasley.
Yes, Colour Sergeant Beasley, his father was also a grenadier, but Guardsman Gagan and Guardsman Hanley are both extremely tall, at 6'7" and 6'4". But we see the colour on parade in its ceremonial, perhaps setting today, but it deploys with us everywhere, including operations as it did in 2012 on our last Afghanistan tour.
Off we go with Lieutenant, which has been played on parade every year since 1936. And fittingly, the arrangement, which dates back to the late 19th century, is by former Grenadier Guards Director of Music, Dan Godfrey. That raised trombone is the signal for the mass bands to countermarch, and it is given by Colour Sergeant Matt Snell, band of the Welsh Guards. And so the band turn ready for the quick march. Was Senior Drum Major Daniel Fairley of the Coldstream Guards in his first birthday parade as Senior Drum Major, ordering the quick march. Another piece composed specifically for this year, Grenade Fired Proper by Staff Sergeant Ian Shepherd. And the lone drummer on the left there breaks away, drummer Alistair Walker, marching to a position to the right of the escort. And like all the musicians on parade today, drummer Walker is a soldier first, recently qualifying as a machine gun section commander. The lone drummer playing 8 bars of a field signal called the drummer's call. And James, that very much a link to the battlefield.
Before modern communications, the drummers would signal commands on the battlefield, and right now he's signalled for the captain and escort to hand over to the subaltern and the escort to march out and receive the colour.
Remainder, aim, on, and on, east. Escort for the colour. In close order. Left. Dress.
The Sultan of the escort, Captain Archie Denison Smith, giving the order for the escort to take up their dressing in close order. And the eyes front, perfectly achieved without a word of command.
Escort for the colour will advance. By the left, quick march.
The escort steps off to the rousing march of the British Grenadiers, ready for the collection of the colour. And this tune dates back to the 17th century and was used as a military march during the reign of William III.
Escort for the colour. In open order. Right. Dress. Mass bands and drums will retire. About. Turn.
The mass bands turn about to face the colour party, and the senior director of music takes up a new position close to the front. And this is such a proud moment for Regimental Sergeant Major Greg Mann, as he now prepares to take possession of the colour, protecting it with his sword, and ready to hand it over safely to the ensign. And James, you know the Regimental Sergeant Major.
20 years ago, almost to the day, we were in Iraq and our base was attacked and our accommodation took 2 direct hits, severely wounding one of our soldiers, and the then Lance Corporal man ran through further incoming fire to go and get help. So I feel very proud seeing him today as the Regimental Sergeant Major and handing over the colour.
And the ensign entrusted with its care is Second Lieutenant Alexander Goshen, and it is he who will troop the colour through the ranks.
Escort to the colour. Present. Out.
The ensign and the regimental sergeant major resume their positions within the escort, and we are now arriving at the moment which gives this entire ceremony its name, trooping the colour.
Escort to the colour. Change. Arms. Escort to the colour. By the centre. Slow march.
And as the escort advances in slow time, the bands now play Escort to the Colour by Richard Ridings. And have a look at this movement, because this is the spin wheel, and you just watch and you wonder, how are they changing direction while all playing music, while all not seeming to change direction?
I've watched this rehearsed on many occasions, and I have to confess I still don't entirely understand how it works, but the point is it does work.
And the point being they keep formation while changing direction. And the slow march is not easy.
It's not a natural pace to move at, and if you don't concentrate, it's easy to lose the step, and you've got to constantly listen for the bass drum to maintain the pace.
Music changes to the majestic Grenadiers slow march. And the escort now troops the colour through the ranks. The ensign, Second Lieutenant Alec Goshen, is from a long line of Grenadiers, and this year his cousin, Major Tom Hargreaves, is also on parade. But for Alec, he knows that all eyes are on him.
Nerves are good in anything you do, anything competitive. One always has nerves. However, those nerves usually ensure you're extra sharp on all your movements. You're really thinking about the job role you've got to do and keeping yourself mission focused, as it were, on the parade itself. Knowing that those members of my family would have seen that colour and what that meant to them. To see and to feel and to troop that colour on the King's birthday parade is something I will treasure for the rest of my life.
Escort arrives alongside number 2 guard.
To the colour! Change! Mount! Escort to the colour! Reason! Mount! Guards! No! Arms!
Field officer and brigade waiting, taking over the commands there. Before we heard the subaltern in very good voice, and actually, James, the voice projection here, no help from microphones or speakers. You've got to be strong.
It's a huge area. You've got to fill that area with your voice. Every person's got to hear those words of command. In fact, in previous years, there's often been help from opera singers helping the field officer just to learn how to project that voice even further.
And also a lot of commands to remember.
Yes, Tom, the field officer, has hundreds of words of command to remember, and he's also completed another parade this week, presentation of new colours, and he had to learn all those words of command. So yes, a lot to learn, but he's doing a fantastic job.
The adjutant there with the command guides steady.
Right form! Quick! Guard!
The corps of drums now performs Galanthia.
Numbers 1 to 5 guard will advance. All out! Turn! Number 6 guard. Close order! March! Move to the right in 3. On 3! Right! Guards will march past in slow and quick time. By the left! Oh! March!
So the trooping phase is complete and the march past will now begin. All 6 guards will march past the king in slow and quick time. The music we're hearing now is the neutral slow march, which this year is Mollendorf's parade march. It dates back to the early 19th century. And the good news now for all of the guards is, James, they can finally move.
They've been stood still for 51 minutes. If you can imagine standing still for that long, and that's not just still, that is perfectly still. A heavy rifle in their hands, eyes looking front. So yeah, a big relief to get going.
We mentioned the heights of the escort party, but actually the whole of the King's Company forming the first guard here, they are incredibly tall.
They are. You have to be 6 foot to be in the King's Company, and I can assure you they're all extremely tall. Sadly, I'm on the wrong side of 6 foot, so I can vouch for that. But with Guardsman Thomas Gagan at 6'7", and with bearskins, they are 7 to 8 feet tall and a truly imposing sight.
The bearskins themselves, and they look magnificent, don't they? They take a fair bit of grooming, I imagine.
They need a lot of work. I know some people wash their bearskins. I was always too terrified to do that. But they're not as heavy as they look, and provided you get them fitting well, they're actually quite comfortable to wear. It's the tunic that's the heavy and hot bit.
And luckily today the weather is absolutely perfect. There's a freshening breeze, but it's bright, it's clear, and it makes the spectacle even more impressive.
It does. The weather, I think, is perfect. Not too hot, not too cold. And the motto for the Grenadiers is twice the soldier. What does it mean
to be a grenadier, as you have been and as will always be, as they say, once a grenadier, always a grenadier.
A twice a soldier is very special to us because we deliver ceremonial excellence, as you can see now, and we deliver the same thing on the battlefield. We do both roles to the very highest standard, and it's something we're hugely proud of.
The field officer and brigade waiting leads the way on jumping jack. He is behaving very well at the moment. And behind him, the major of the parade, Major Tom Hendrickson. This is his first birthday parade. He's done operational tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. But for this year's King's Birthday Parade, he's faced a very different challenge. He has learned to ride from scratch.
If anyone can appreciate the challenge of learning something new in later life, you will appreciate Tom's challenge. Military riding, as you can see there, he's riding one-handed, left-handed, sword in his right hand, balancing a bearskin on your head, which many of the horses don't like. Throwing 8,000 people, and it's a real challenge. But we must mention Corporal Major Dan Martin, Household Division Stables. And actually just there you can see General Sir Raleigh Walker, who himself was a grenadier, commanded from 2008 to 2010. He also commanded the birthday parade in 2010.
And wearing the uniform of the Chief of General Staff, he is head of the British Army. Colour now at the front, with Ensign Second Lieutenant Alec Goshen in full command. And as he comes past the King, you'll see the famous flourish of the colour. The music changes to the Grenadier Guards Slow March, Scipio by George Frederick Handel. This will be the 32nd time the Grenadier Guards had the honour of trooping their colour for the Sovereign, most recently in 2019. And there you see the flourish as the colour is lowered. The King salutes the colour. Cover there, completing the full flourish. And marching past the King, number 2 Company, 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards. And Nijmegen Company Grenadier Guards provide number 3 Guard. And you know the captain of the Guard.
I do, yeah, Major Gareth Davies, know him very well. Also the left guide, Colour Sergeant Matthew Shaw, a sniper. We served together. His grandfather served in World War II.
Inkerman Company are number 4 Guard. And Guardsman Rebecca Davis joined the Grenadiers in 2023. Alongside being a soldier, she does kickboxing and regularly competes for Great Britain. And the music turns to Let Erin Remember. It is, of course, the Irish Guards, who form number 5 Guard, and their colonel, the Princess of Wales, will look on from the dais. Princess is a hugely popular colonel.
She is, as all the Royal Colonels are, but I know the Princess of Wales has seen the Irish Guards many times, always makes time to see the families, which are the unsung heroes.
And number 6 Guard completes the march past in slow time, comprised of number 7 Company Coldstream Guards marching to their regimental slow march, Figaro. The adjutant of the parade, Captain Charles Craven, brings up the rear. He's been on foot before at the birthday parade, but this is his first time riding a horse. The field officer in brigade waiting, Lieutenant Colonel Tom Spencer-Smith, rides out to salute the King now that the slow march is complete. And we heard him earlier speak about his experiences in Afghanistan, and today marks the 14th anniversary of the death of King's Company Grenadier Lance Corporal James Ashworth in Helmand Province. Aged 23, he was posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross. His family is here, and Michelle has been speaking to them.
I'm really pleased to be joined by James's father, Dwayne, and his stepmother, Caroline. Dwayne, you're a grenadier yourself. You trooped the colour back in the early 90s. Just tell me, as a family, what this occasion means to you.
Well, normally we'd all be sitting around in the dining room with all our family and friends watching it on the TV. So being here today is an amazing opportunity for us, especially as it's James's anniversary. And the pride that you get trooping the colour, hopefully I'll feel the same sitting in the stand today.
Caroline, as Dwayne mentioned, it's actually 14 years, isn't it, to the day that James was killed. Incredibly poignant to be here on Horse Guards as a time to reflect.
Yeah, it's a real honour to come today. It's obviously always such an awful day for the whole family. But to come and be here and part of this is, yeah, just an incredible feeling. We're very privileged.
How would you like James to be remembered, Dwayne, as his father?
I think anybody that met James would know how he'd want to be remembered. He was the party animal and the life and soul and a larger-than-life character. But he's always going to be in the annals of history now, having been awarded the Victoria Cross. And I think he'll be naturally remembered anyway. We're just very proud of what he's done in the service to his nation.
Dwayne, Caroline, thank you so much.
The Guards have now reformed, ready for the march past in quick time, and it is obviously a day of remembrance as well as pageantry and celebration.
Yes, I remember the day vividly when Corporal Ashworth was killed. I was there in Afghanistan. I remember the shock and then the stunned silence when we heard of the gallantry that he'd shown. But his legacy lives on, and at the Army Training Centre in Pirbright, where new recruits are trained, a training company has been named Ashworth VC Company, and the next generation of the British Army will forever know his name.
Now, this music commemorates the Battle of Arnhem, in which the Grenadier Guards were part of the Allied advance through the Netherlands. It was a story later immortalised in the film A Bridge Too Far, and it's where Nijmegen Company gets its name. And James, what is the relationship between the Guards generally? How would you describe it?
Well, if you imagine a family with 7 siblings, the 7 regiments, they all have very different personalities. They're very competitive and spend most of their time arguing with each other over who is best. But when it matters, they are fiercely loyal to each other, and deep down, they love each other dearly. Although I sometimes think in the Foot Guards, they might be a little bit jealous of their big brother, the Grenadier Guards.
You're going to get into trouble for that. No. But this actually is an important demonstration of teamwork and timing and being together.
We often talk about discipline, but it's all at the centre of this: discipline, teamwork, timing. This has been described many times as the greatest team sport in the world, and I think you're seeing that today.
And amongst those watching on, we have the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and his wife, Lady Victoria. Now the music for the first 3 Guards will be the British Grenadiers. And interestingly, the youngest Guardsman on parade today is Guardsman Morrissey. He was only 18 years old. And at the other end of the experience level, Lance Sergeant Matthew Morris, who's done more troops than any other Grenadier Guard. This is his 10th. Just behind the escort, number 2 Company, 1st Battalion Grenadier Guard. Lance Corporal Sambles amongst their group.
Great to see Corporal Sambles, a real character of the regiment, a regimental tailor, and also the left guide, Sergeant Michael Ogden, twice decorated on operations.
Number 3 Guard, formed by Nijmegen Company, Grenadier Guards. And you're going to hear a change of music for number 4 Guard Inkerman Company. The Inkerman of long association with the Royal Navy. That is why their company march was Rule Britannia. And for number 5 Guard, it's number 9 and 12 Company Irish Guards and the unmistakable tune of St. Patrick's Day. And number 7 Company Coldstream Guards bring up the rear in number 6 Guard, and their quick march is Millenolo. As the mass bands play the neutral quick march, the voice of the guns, the field officer rides out for the 2nd time to salute the King to mark the next phase of the parade. And it is a great moment for him, for his family and all his colleagues.
I've been very lucky to speak to Tom a number of times over the last few weeks, and he just spoke how proud he is to be commanding the Grenadiers in our 370th year. And it's been hard work. The Grenadiers have had less time to prepare for various scheduling reasons, but he's also been the first to highlight others, the Sergeant Major, but particularly Drill Sergeants Matt Mooney, Jay Moore, who've been the unsung heroes behind the scenes. Tom is the first to acknowledge others, but he has done a fantastic job.
Officers! Take post! Quick! On! On! In open order! Left and
So the mass bands and drums move to the south side of the parade. The foot guards have reformed, and soon it will be the turn of the mounted troops to pass the dais, the household cavalry and the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery and the mounted bands of the household division. And the band of the household cavalry moving on to Horse Guards, led by Director of Music Major Paul Collis-Smith. And this is his last day as a major before he's promoted to Lieutenant Colonel and assumes command of the household division bands. From Monday, he'll be taking over from Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Halliday. And those gorgeous drum horses, Apollo and Perseus, holding the rank of major, so they outrank many of the humans on parade. And the first of the mounted troops, the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery, in their 80th anniversary year. They are led by their commanding officer, Major Luke Wadman. And very recently, the King's Troop suffered a devastating loss following the death of Lance Bombardier Chiara Sullivan. At the Royal Windsor Horse Show, her commanding officer described her as a bright light in any room she entered, and that she was an immensely professional soldier and an exceptional jockey. Our thoughts remain very much with her family, her friends, her colleagues, many of whom are on parade today. And I think they will have her very close in their hearts as they put on the best show possible.
Bombardier Sullivan's death has hit them hard, but they've taken solace knowing she loved horses and riding. And they're a super professional unit, and they've focused their grief today, and I know they want to ensure that today is their best parade ever.
The King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery, Royal Salutes! Eyes! Right!
Following the King's Troop, the two regiments of the Household Cavalry, the Life Guards and the Blues and Royals, and they will walk past the King. And this year it is the Life Guards, the senior regiment in the British Army, who have the honour of riding in front as 1st and 2nd divisions of the Sovereign's escort. Easy to persuade horses that would like to go a little faster to just do this bit in walk. Firmly focused though. And the Blues and Royals will pass their colonel, the Princess Royal, and Princess Anne riding not just as colonel of the regiment but also as gold stick in waiting. What is that role? What does it mean?
The gold stick was the Sovereign's closest bodyguard, and the expression keeping someone at arm's length was the gold stick with their arm extended, with this gold stick in there, keeping the public at arm's length.
Field officer's trumpeter, Trooper Lumsden, sounding the trot past. And the trumpeter traditionally rode next to the commanding officer, always on a grey horse, so they could be seen more easily on the battlefield amongst all of the black horses. Trooper Lumsden joined the army just 2 years ago, and he'd never played an instrument before. And you met him recently.
It was a real pleasure meeting him. He's a really fun guy. He spoke about actually his horse was quite difficult to get going, so rather than slow down, he's having to try and speed it up.
That's Phantom, the horse is called. And yeah, had to gallop round and slot back in. And this piece of music is called Colts and Fillies. It's written by Major Collis-Smith, the Mounted Band's Director of Music. And it's been specifically composed for the sitting trot, so it has a 2-beat rhythm. Sitting trot, not a comfortable gait. And as the King's troop come round for the second time in the quick march, you will see His Majesty the King salute the lead gun, which is in effect their colour. And it's the King's troop's 80th anniversary this year.
Many events planned. Their big one was actually in May, the coronation gun salute in Hyde Park, which Princess Anne attended. She maintains close links with the troop, mainly through the equine excellence that they demonstrate.
And the King's troop has the highest percentage of women in the British Army. Around 60% of the King's troop are female. And His Majesty the King will acknowledge the standard of the Life Guards. It remains at the carry during the trot past. We've spoken a lot today about the Foot Guards' dual role, but of course members of the Household Cavalry also have an operational role.
Very much. We see them in their ceremonial role today, but their primary role is armour reconnaissance, going ahead of the main force to find the enemy. House of Cavalry was the first to receive the British Army's new Ajax. And 44 years ago this evening, both the Scots Guards and the Blues and Royals fought together to capture Mount Tumbledown.
Blues and Royals there, and then at the rear you will see the farriers with their glinting axes, and among them is farrier Lance Corporal Milligan, and she's the first female farrier to serve within the Household Cavalry. This is her first appearance riding on the King's Birthday Parade as a farrier. Director of Music, Major Paul Collis-Smith, leads the band of the Household Cavalry and salutes the King, while the kettle drummers riding the drum horses cross their sticks as they pass before the King. And the musicians wearing this wonderful state coat, which signals that they are members of the royal household, with its crimson velvet and gold braid and the lace. It's the oldest ceremonial uniform in the regular army. And look at those drum horses and the riders steering with their feet, because obviously their hands are otherwise engaged with the drums. And the band of the Household Cavalry has halted, and the Director of Music turns, signalling that he is handing back control of the parade to the field officer for the final birthday salute to the King. And the field officer, Lieutenant Colonel Tom Spencer-Smith, rides forward to ask the King's permission to march off to Buckingham Palace, where there's more ceremony still to come once the regiments of Foot Guards have escorted His Majesty the King back down the Mall. And Jumping Jack, who he rides, is now 19 years old, almost knows every bit of this parade, as well as anyone who is riding him. And there in the approach road is Garrison Sergeant Major Andrew Stokes, known as Vern. He is one of the most senior warrant officers in the British Army and the man in charge of delivering on the ground everything you see today. Their Royal Highness the Duchess of Edinburgh and Vice Admiral Sir Tim Lawrence make their way back towards Buckingham Palace. Guards now marching off. I think Prince Louis and Prince George and Princess Charlotte have all enjoyed it as well. And the Princess of Wales, as we mentioned, is Colonel of the Irish Guards. And as the procession continues down the Mall, I am delighted to say that joining us is author and broadcaster Giles Brandreth. And Giles, you've been watching alongside us. What have your thoughts been as you view this spectacle?
I love this spectacle. It is the biggest spectacle of its kind in the calendar of the year. And I love it because it's both history and it's now. Grenadier Guards trooping their colour in their 370th year. And the Household Cavalry and the King's Troop bring together soldiers, horses, guns in a way I believe no other country can. This is centuries of service and of sacrifice. And people may think they're just watching spectacle here, but the precision, the discipline, the months of preparation, I know because I have a son-in-law who's a Coldstreamer, who says to me, actually, this is all about what we actually do on the field as well. So it's tradition that continues to evolve while remaining recognizably the same, and yet what they're doing now is actually of value in their work when the deployment that's coming for all of them, happens. The planning of that begins on Monday.
And riding just behind the King and the Queen, we saw the Royal Colonels, including His Royal Highness there on the right-hand side on the dark horse, the Prince of Wales, who's Colonel of the Welsh Guards. It's 20 years since Prince William started his army career at Sandhurst Military Academy. And in April, the Prince of Wales spoke of fond memories of his former airbase as he returned to mark its 85th anniversary. And just last week, he visited the naval base in Clyde, and marking the 125th anniversary of Scotland's main naval base, the submarine service.
As we see the King and Queen there, I just love the Queen's uniform because it's created for her. I think designer Fiona Clare designed that uniform. It's got a wonderful Philip Tracy beret with the white plume, and I think I'm right in saying it's the cap badge of the Grenadier Guards.
And Prince George has pretty much completed his time at Lambert, then is off to big school next term.
I mean, James, you can confirm, and the King's relationship with the armed forces is absolutely key. And he balances in his life. I mean, he is the busiest of all the royals. More than 530 engagements last year. He's the busiest royal there is. Yesterday, you were reminding us that he was at Aldershot with very personal, informal speech that I watched, where he really talked about the pride he takes. And you could see him, no notes, he just was speaking from the heart. But I noted that earlier in the day, of course, he'd been in Grimsby, actually doing official duties there. So it's a very varied life. But the military is key to him, isn't it?
It really is, and he gives so much support, seen and not seen, to the armed forces. But thousands and thousands of sailors, soldiers and aviators will have received a letter from his King or Prince of Wales, handwritten letters, often at a very personal time in that individual's life. It might be a death or a promotion or award of a gallantry award. I received such a medal after the coronation, and I remember my postman saying how proud he was to deliver it.
And these pictures are being enjoyed by people right around the world. How do you assess the international appeal of this event?
Well, this is what makes Britain, the United Kingdom, unique. But the Commonwealth, of course, is represented here. There are 56 Commonwealth countries. This is one of the world's most recognizable royal events. And this event showcases what we regard as British imagery. This is brand Britain. There are guardsmen, bearskins, household cavalry, Buckingham Palace. There's going to be the RAF fly past. And it's lovely to see several generations of the royal family together. So here we've got history, we've got spectacle, we've got continuity, but the reminder from James that all these people are real soldiers. And among the liners, real members of the RAF and they'll be flying past, members of the Navy. This is the real deal. It isn't just showtime.
And I think even those youngsters there are fully appreciative of that and understand the role that everyone plays in making this event so special. One of the King's great passions, the King's Trust, has celebrated its 50th anniversary this year, or will do, and it's supported over 1 million young people in the UK. Last month, the King hosted a celebration gala at the Royal Albert Hall, and there were those attending included George Clooney and Benedict Cumberbatch and Idris Elba and Charlotte Tilbury. It was quite the gathering. Make their way around the Queen Victoria Memorial, which was planned by King Edward VII as a tribute to Queen Victoria, his mother, after her death in 1901. Meanwhile, there are the King's Troop riding into Green Park, and they will dismantle the horses from the guns and make sure they are at a safe and suitable distance. At the barracks, they're constantly playing them loud music, so they get used to loud noises, and they will be rock steady during the gun salute. And what a glorious day and a wonderful way to mark the King's official birthday. Now look at this, the crowds making their way down the Mall, all of them keen to secure a spot so that they can see that famous balcony appearance of the King and Queen, as well as the Prince and Princess of Wales and their 3 children.
Number 1!
Now we see the King's Troop in position, and the first gun of the 41-gun Royal Salute.
Number 2! Fire!
And the commanding officer, Major Luke Wadman, giving the order. The regimental Sergeant Major Reed next to him pierces a piece of leather to keep track of the number of rounds.
Number 4! Fire!
And why, James, is it a 41-gun salute?
Number 1!
It dates back to the 14th, 15th centuries. Warships entering a foreign port would fire their cannons to demonstrate they're empty. Often these ships had 7 cannons.
Number 2!
And the shore battery for the country they're visiting would fire 3 rounds to signal they were clear, so that gave 21 rounds. That was standardised in 1875 to a 21-gun salute. When it's in a royal park, there's an extra 20 rounds, so 41. And if the gun salute falls on a royal anniversary, as it did for the birthday parade in 2nd of June 2022, it's doubled, so it then becomes 82 rounds. It's wonderful to hear the crump of the round going through our commentary box right now.
You hear the crowds cheer because the balcony doors are opening, and now we see His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen taking their position, followed by Prince Louis and Princess Charlotte. It's George there looking very smart, and the Princess of Wales and the Prince of Wales. And we can feel them as well as hear them and see them, the Chinooks leading the way And this year marks 45 years of Chinook service with the RAF, being flown by 7, 18 and 27 squadrons. And you have experienced this, James.
A very familiar sound for members of the Army, and as you said, our commentary box was actually shaking as they went past, but very special to see them.
And then we have the Dakota, military transport plane widely used by the Allies in World War II. And this very plane has just come back from a 3-year major refurbishment, preserving it for future use. Beautiful shot there of it flying above the Queen Victoria Memorial.
I think the first fly past goes right back to the founding of the RAF back in 1916.
Here we have the Phenom in the centre, flown by 45 Squadron, who celebrated their 110th anniversary this year. And the Texans on either side. And you know, the Phenom has a futuristic touchscreen glass cockpit. And 3 cheers ringing out amongst the crowd and being acknowledged by the royal family. And this, the A400 Atlas, flown by Flight Lieutenant Hansen. His last flight past before leaving the RAF. He's from 70 Squadron, which is also celebrating its 110th anniversary. This, the C-17, flown by 99 Squadron, and it's a long-range heavy lift aircraft used for humanitarian missions very often these days. And in fact, this was the plane that in 2022 transported the body of Queen Elizabeth II back for her state funeral. The Voyager being flown by 101 Squadron, and the Typhoons just behind by 12 Squadron. The Voyager is the RAF's only air-to-air refueling tanker, so it is a moving airborne fuel station.
I was very lucky enough to get to fly in a Typhoon, take it supersonic over the North Sea, and what an incredible machine that is. And not just the pilots that fly that, but also the crews that keep them all running.
And you can really appreciate the close formation of those as well. Now we have a Poseidon, flown by 201 Squadron. And Poseidon's a maritime patrol aircraft designed for anti-submarine warfare and surveillance. And the Poseidon has the latest cutting-edge technology to detect and identify and monitor hostile contacts both above and below the waves. So, amazing technology. And the Prince of Wales will appreciate all this as well. He earned his RAF wings in 2008 after completing an intensive flying course. Now, the Rivet Joint, flown by 51 Squadron. They're also celebrating their 110th anniversary this year. And this was deployed for Operation Shader missions in Iraq, which many Grenadiers on parade today also did.
They did. The battalions deployed there on a number of occasions.
This one's got a throaty rumble to its engine. Now the 4 pilots on board the Typhoons are from 29 Squadron, and for all of them today is their first fly past. 29 Squadron is the unit that trains all new pilots on how to fly and operate the Typhoon. But it's perfect conditions for it, it really is. Here we are. The Hawks, flown by the RAF aerobatic team, the iconic Red Arrows. And in just a few days after this appearance over London, the Red Arrows will perform across the United States to mark 250 years of American independence. And we've got the F-35Bs as well, flown by 207 Squadron. Look at that.
What a sound, what a sound.
And what a sight as they make their way over Buckingham Palace towards the west of London. And the King acknowledges the crowds. What a stunning celebration. Giles, your final thoughts on today's Trooping the Colour?
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it? That this has been going on for hundreds of years. First performed during the reign of Charles II, and here we are, the reign of Charles III. And it's as modern as tomorrow, and yet it's got a lot of time for yesterday.
And that concludes the King's Birthday Parade, the fourth of His Majesty's reign, marked by a fantastic vision and style, all in the sunshine on Horse Guards, and that memorable sight of the vast crowds here at Buckingham Palace wishing His Majesty a very happy birthday. And from my special guests, Lieutenant Colonel James Shaw and Giles Brandreth, and everyone here on the BBC team at the King's Birthday Parade, thank you for watching and goodbye.